I wanted women to have a place where they could say that stuff and no one is going to make them feel a different type of way or feel bad about it. And that's what it's all about. So everything that I created literally was to compliment and to make sure they have exactly what they needed to get to the next day, get to the next. Some people are trying to make it to the next 5 minutes. If that's the case, that's what I'm trying to help them.
The Digital Banking Podcast is powered by Tyfone. Tyfone is the creator of Infinia, a dramatically better digital banking platform for community financial institutions, as well as several platform-agnostic revenue-generating point solutions. Our highly configurable platform and broad ecosystem of third-party partners ensure our entire suite is scalable and extensible to meet the needs of any FI. On our podcast, you will hear host Josh DeTar discuss today's most pressing financial technology topics with seasoned industry experts from every possible discipline.
Your podcast hasn't officially made it until there's ads in it. But this is one you're not going to want to skip past. And, well, if you do, feel free to hit that fast forward 15 seconds button twice. Ever wonder what gives me my energy and enthusiasm during these podcasts? Outside of my relentless desire to learn about, connect, share, and build up community FIs and their mission to support the communities they serve. It's coffee, and lots of it. Now, you want to know what's better than your regular old coffee? How about donating $5 to the Children's Miracle Network hospitals through Credit Unions for Kids every time you purchase high-quality, ethically sourced coffee that also provides living wages to coffee farmers. So if you want to listen to this episode with epic levels of caffeine-induced focus and help kids in need, head to javaforkids.org to learn more and buy a bag or 10. Thanks.
Welcome to another episode of the Digital Banking Podcast. My guest today is Robin Sims Allen, the founder and CEO at Phoenix Marcus, TotalHER. Now, this is going to be a little different episode than usual, and honestly, I couldn't be more excited for it. While it's a little different in the initial topics I think we're going to cover, it's going to be super relevant for community FIs. Look, everyone is struggling to grow market share and to carve out niche differentiating services, products, and groups that you support. So here's a great example for you. It's also just going to be a blast of an episode to record. When I asked Robin, what's one thing you would want people to know about you? Her answer was the most raw and hilarious answer I have ever heard from a guest, like by a long shot. She said, I binge watch Ratchet TV. She said, hey, look, it's Friday and my brain is already in the mode of what's my Friday night going to look like? And that's it. So it was the first thing that came to my mind. Now, what I found fascinating about Robin, though, is she is crazy, meticulously calculated in everything she does. So I asked her, I said, so does that mean that your brain's 100% on and then watching trash TV helps you turn it off? She said, no, just the opposite. Some of my best ideas come while watching trash TV. And we're going to talk about the exact moment TotalHER was created, which was during an episode of Law & Order SVU, just as an example. Now, the other reason this is going to be such a fun episode is Robin gets fired up about solving problems that piss her off. And yes, that, friends, is a direct quote. So how does a hyper-motivated trash TV watcher, a women's-only social media platform, and banking come together? Trust me, you're going to want to stick around to find out. So with that, Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm stoked. I've been looking forward to this since we got connected. And it was because you said the same thing the first time we met. And you were like, yeah, I do stuff because when I get pissed off, I'm like, well, why be pissed off at it? Solve it. I was like, I love that. You're just like, no BS, straight to the punch.
Yep. Just waiting for someone to solve a problem. I've waited too long. So waiting is not a thing that I do. I'm a bias to action. If it's something that I can do and it's in my realm, I'm going to figure out a way to resolve it. If it's an issue that's happening, I'm going to figure out how to overcome it. And if I don't do that, I'm going to definitely hunt down a resource to somebody who can.
Okay, we have a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about because you've got a really, really fascinating journey. And there's like 11 different places that I want to kind of start with you. But I think there's a couple of things that I want to start with just to set a little bit of like groundwork for our listeners, because there's a lot of things that I think we're going to come back to. And I think one of the things that would be really cool to start with, Robin, is talk to me a little bit about the story of, you working to start your first company and the struggles that you had in just getting people to, one, take you serious, and two, to actually, invest in your company. I want to start with that. And then I want to talk a little bit about what is TotalHER, because we're actually going to reference that, I think, quite a bit in this episode. So just giving people a framework of what that is, but maybe start with a little bit of just kind of your founder's story.
I became an entrepreneur by accident. To be honest, it came about when I was 8 years old. At that time, I was considered a bookworm. I read a lot of adult books. I was reading Danielle Steele, Nora Roberts, James Patterson. I was reading this at 8 years old. So a lot of the time, it just changed my framework of how I saw things. I was asked by a couple of teachers, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I can never answer that question. Sometimes I would make up stuff just to get them to get off of me. I would say, oh, I want to be a lawyer. Oh, I want to be a writer. I never wanted to be a doctor because I can't stand the sight of blood. So it was just making stuff up. And then once a teacher pulled me to the side, are you sure you want to be a lawyer? And I was like, no, what I want to do hasn't been created yet. I'm going to make it up. And she was bothered by that. But I was so serious. What I wanted to do didn't exist. It's not something that you can train for, something you can go to school 100 years for. It's not, because it hadn't been invented yet. And I knew that that is what I was intended on doing. That was my destiny. It's to create my own job. I didn't want someone to tell me what I was supposed to do. I didn't want to follow in my father's footsteps. I didn't want to be in my mother's footsteps. I didn't want to do anything like anyone else. So that is how I became an entrepreneur, because it just happened to be that way. Out of survival, I had to learn very young because of a traumatic childhood that I had to figure things out, and I had to figure it out quick. So that's just became how it was. So my first startup was because of my traumatic childhood, and there was no one to lean on. There was no one that I could get help from. Even though, they say, oh, you can report it to your teacher and stuff. The traumatic experiences that I was experiencing, it was because of family members. And you can't tell your teacher, they're going to go to the cops. And then it's going to be a whole situation that you're not even wanting to be in at 8 years old. And I knew that. So I just began to, as an adult, start thinking about, well, what if this was available when I was a teen and going through this? So that's where Ask Geezer came from. The primary purpose of Ask Geezer was so that teens can be their own experts. So whatever it is that you're knowledgeable about, you're good at. I wanted you to be able to, one, be an expert, build your own confidence, because you constantly have someone tearing your confidence down. And I wanted you to be able to get the help that you need and know how to get it, how to negotiate, how to learn these skills that we're not taught, especially myself as a Black woman. We're not given the same education as anyone else. I had to learn things by accident, trial and error, literally. And a lot of times it cost me big. So that is where it happened. So my first startup, I tried to launch it. I did everything that I thought was going to be profitable. I spent a lot of money on building out a prototype. I spent a lot of money on business plans and different things of that nature. I'm trying to send it to venture capitalists and trying to get investors. They don't care. They didn't care about a woman. They didn't care about a Black woman investing in that. I was point blank told by a lot of VCs back then, I would be able to get further if I had a male as a founder, or let a male be the CEO. So quit being the CEO and let somebody else do it, and then let your dream happen that way. Or this will never work, or this will never happen. No one cares about what teens are thinking. But things like that is what I heard. Sometimes I still hear the same thing when it's about TotalHER, because they'll think, okay, well, this is about women empowerment, women being able to build themselves up, leveling the playing field. And a lot of times it's, well, how do you think men are going to feel about it? That's not my objective.
Care.
It's not to, it's not necessarily to say I don't care what men,
Yeah,
but what it's about is I wanted to build a foundation that I wish I had.
yeah.
So when I say the problems that I see, these are life experiences, challenges that I experienced, trying to build a business, trying to get someone to take you seriously, having conversations with investors who try at the end of it to make you feel like you're the dumbest person in the world. These are conversations that I'm having in real life. So if I can create an opportunity so that another woman, especially a Black woman, doesn't have to go through that, that is the reason why I created TotalHER. And hearing stories from women trying to build brands and trying to build businesses, and they're encountering situations worse than that was my drive. It really pissed me off, and I was like, it shouldn't be this hard. And that's where it came from. And all of this was just watching Law and Order.
Okay. I really wish you were fired up about this. I really wish there was a little passion behind this, you know? So, okay, but that is funny. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, literally, this is going to go down in history as the best answer anyone has ever given me. There's been some really like impressive, deep, thoughtful answers that people are giving me, but this is just the best answer that anybody's ever given me to the, what would you want people to know about you? And you're like, I don't know, I binge watch Ratchet TV. I about fell down laughing. I mean, but what was crazy was when you told me, you were like, that's actually not about like disconnecting for me. You're like, it actually just is a help of puts my brain into that mode of looking at what's going on in the world, what's happening in other people's lives, and what problems can I see before they even become problems, and then think about solving. So I want to talk about, I think maybe start with like, what was the genesis of TotalHER, and how did that come out of watching an episode of Law and Order? But then tell us a little bit about what is TotalHER, because I think it's a pretty cool idea.
So the first thing is TotalHER is a social media platform for women. And to this day, a lot of times investors, when I have conversations with them, they want to ask, well, what category do you fit in? Well, I don't. I'm not in competition with Instagram. Although my app does look similar to Instagram, it's not Instagram, and I'm not in competition with Instagram. We do have components that are like that, but that's not what it's about. What it is the level playing field. It's kind of has the vibe of LinkedIn, where you're professionally networking. You're talking about your consulting business. You might be talking about the body butter or makeup or whatever it is that you're creating in your basement or in your kitchen. And there's just no home for it on the internet. There's places where you can promote it, like TikTok and different things of that nature. But look at what you have to do. You have to do something drastic or post some kind of weird content just to get it to go viral. That's a lot of work. And I don't believe in doing extra stuff if you don't have to. And that was what was behind the scenes, and how I thought about TotalHER is, how can I make this easier? If a majority of the things that women are selling, makeup, nail polish, or whatever it is, curtains, whatever it is, cookies, whatever they're doing, if your target audience is women, why not have them all in one place? So that way you don't have to figure out how to market, because it's already semi-done for you. So let's not have to worry about spending $100 or $1,000, $5,000 on ads and different things of that nature. Why? When you can just simply post a picture of whatever it is, say what you got to say about it, and now it's on the timeline. Everyone can see it. That is what I wanted to do, and that's what I built TotalHER to do. So if you ask me, what is it? It is a combination, the best of what you see on social media, what it could have been if they gave a damn.
Well, because I think there's another really important component to that you've talked about with me, which is the component of from a place of positivity, right? And
Right.
look, like there is a ton of negativity on social media. Like actually I'll kind of share personally with you, Robin. I used to be, I'm very active on LinkedIn just for work. I was quasi active on like Instagram and Facebook. And it was really more just following friends, businesses that I liked, things like that. But I think it's probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago now, it just got so toxic that I was just done with it. And I deleted both of them from my phone. And honestly, Robin, I literally haven't looked back since. And I just feel so much more at peace because the conversations I have with real people in the real world are a hell of a lot more positive than the crap that I was seeing on social media. And so, but you were talking about, I mean, especially as an entrepreneurial woman trying to launch a business, just the bullshit that they face is even more so than that. Just so many people that are negative, hiding behind the keyboard. And like people were willing to tell you to your face. Yeah. People are willing to tell you to your face, like, if you had a man run this company, we'd be more interested. Man, imagine how much more of a jerk they'll be online when they can hide behind the keyboard. So you just wanted to get rid of that crap too. You were like, nope, kill it. Like, if you're not positive, you're out of here.
Exactly. So I wanted to create an environment where it's intentional. So when you receive a direct message, it is because 9 out of 10 times you know exactly what that conversation is about. Because if you use our feature called Request Her, it literally configures what that conversation is going to be about. So they're either wanting to collaborate with you. Maybe they're a podcast host and they want you to be on their podcast. That conversation is going to say collaboration. And you're going to know exactly that this is a conversation about merging our heads together and creating something. If you're a shop salesperson or so forth, and they've been to your website or your Amazon store, your TikTok store, or whatever it was, and they're looking for this lemon butter product of yours and they can't find it, they're going to send you a message on TotalHER that says purchase request. So when you get that alert on your phone, it's going to say purchase request, and you know, ooh, there's some money to be made. They want something from me. Or they may just be wanting to book time. Maybe I'm a consultant and your Calendly link is not working. It's ghosted out for whatever reason, because I'm experiencing that to this day. A lot of people say that they can't book me on Calendly. Don't know. I don't know. But on TotalHER, because I've configured my schedule, you can request me on TotalHER. It's going to come up on my phone. It's going to let me know that you're booking time. And the most important component about that is I've set my rates. That means I'm telling you that my time is valuable. So I'm not about to get on an hour call with you and I have not been compensated. It just doesn't make sense. So when I built TotalHER, I wanted everything to be intentional. I wanted people to be valued. I wanted you to place value. If you're not the type of person who has the energy or the mental capacity or whatnot to value your own expertise or your own experiences, no one else will. And I'm forcing you to do that on TotalHER. I'm forcing you to put that value on yourself because
I love that.
You're missing it in day-to-day life. It's always someone trying to tear you down or trying to deter you from the goals that you have or whatnot. I wanted you to have just one place where it's safe for you to be who you are and no one is going to judge you. So that's why I built TotalHER.
I love that so much. I mean, and that's why, going back to this may be a little bit different topic than a traditional episode of the Digital Banking Podcast for community FIs. But I think that this is so incredibly directly aligned to, I talk a lot with guests about how, credit unions, community banks, they're like the farmer's market of financial services, right? They're the people that are deeply rooted in the community. They really, really care about people not as a number. They care about Robin. And they're like, how can I support Robin? How can I build up her financial success so that she can sleep soundly at night, so that she's taken care of, so that her future is bright? Like, there are so many people, just embedded within these institutions that care more than anything I've ever seen. And it's about creating that positive sense of community. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're saying, hey, look, there is absolutely a missed opportunity here to give women this place where they can go and they can feel safe, they can feel empowered to have very, very specific conversations about building their community, about building their businesses. And we're going to kind of park that because I want to come back to that as just an opportunity for, our community financial institutions to support that. But talk to me a little bit more about, so then how did this even, this idea start for you? You said it started as watching an episode of Law and Order. So how does that turn into this? I'm going to wake up and I'm going to put all I've got into building this social media platform for women.
Well, so it started, I was watching Law and Order to begin with because that was my way of relaxing. Just watching other people's lives unfold in different situations that they find themselves in. That is what opens me up to watching television and kind of just seeing what goes on and different things of that nature. So I can't remember what the episode was, but it was a challenge that someone was facing that they needed Olivia's team to help with. And I was like, gee, okay, this is good. So nothing is happening yet. So it's nothing's coming in my head yet. I'm just watching, paying attention. I'm watching how they're making these relationships, having a law enforcement officer trying to reach out to a victim and trying to build that trust very quickly. I'm seeing how people interact together. I do have a psychology degree, so learning how people behave and think is what that, I went to school for. So just doing that. And I just started to think and think and think like, gee, okay, there's a lot of layoffs. This was last year, and we're watching wave after wave after wave of layoffs. And I was like, gee. And then you're hearing influencers saying that they can't make money online. Everybody's an influencer. You have to do so much just to earn. You have to write so many blogs or whatever it was. And I was like, gee, gotta be a way of this being easier, especially if you're a woman. And just woman issues always just piss me off in the beginning with, because a lot of the stuff that we're experiencing, it doesn't have to be done that way.
Yeah.
Like, for example, having someone tell us what we can do with ourselves medically pisses me off. Why? Like, why do I need somebody else, third party, telling me what I should do with my body? That just really, so when you add anger for women issues and there's got to be an easier way. And gosh, people are getting fired left and right, left and right. I went to sleep that night. And in my sleep, I'm thinking, okay, how can I be proactive? What happens if I lose my job? I have 2 kids. I have a husband that I'm trying to bring over to America. So that's already another hellish nightmare in itself. So what do I do? How can I be in a better position? And then I started thinking of solutions. And I'm like, okay, everything is on the internet. Social media is everything. It's toxic. I mean, and sometimes that toxicity is good. Like reading the comments. I love reading the comments under major posts because literally I get some of my best ideas just reading comments. Yeah. And just seeing that there's other people just as mad. Or you're seeing a woman who's talking about body positivity, but yet she's airbrushed to the gods. Stuff like that just makes no sense to me. Like, why are we doing the most for no reason? So that is when I was like, well, if I created something, then maybe they wouldn't have to worry about, let me airbrush. Maybe I don't have to Photoshop. Maybe I don't have to do this video 8 times and see if I'm saying the right thing. Maybe I don't have to worry about offending someone because I said this. I said what I said, and that's what it is. I don't want to explain it. I mean, and if I could create an environment like that, that's what I'm going to do. So that is how TotalHER came about, because I'm watching how people who are in the political arena, their stuff that they're saying politically that they said 10 years ago is now coming back to bite them in the ass. But if there was a platform where they could have said that safely, it would have died there, versus someone reliving it or bringing it back up and dredging your worst mistake or your worst thing. It's almost like people feed on trying to find the worst thing about you, and they never let it go. People move on. They expire. They change. They evolve. They do different things. I cannot be held responsible for something that I said 10, 15 years ago. That's probably what I felt then, but that doesn't mean that's what I feel now. Now, if I'm saying the same message that I said 10 years ago, then that's how I really feel, and that's how I am, and that's what it is. And I shouldn't have to apologize for that either. So that is the premise of why I created the features that I created for TotalHER. It's because I didn't want at any point in time where you have to apologize for something, apologize for trying to make extra money, because life is unsustainable at this time. You can't afford anything. I mean, eggs is $8. I mean, you can't afford anything. And I don't think anyone should be having to do way more than they need to do just to feed their family. And that is why I created TotalHER, because I wanted to make it a little bit easier for somebody else, because I'm experiencing those things. I've been at times where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. I'm 10 minutes from being evicted from my home. And I've got children. And so I've been in those scenarios, and I just wanted to make an opportunity for someone not to experience that. And then when I talk about the next thing that I plan on doing after TotalHER, I want to be an angel investor. And when I mean an angel investor, a legit one. And I'm going to get into why I'm saying a legit one, because I don't think angel investors are real angel investors. Because when you hear that a company is pre-seed, that means they're still thinking things over. So no, they don't have metrics to prove what they're doing. It's an idea that probably came out of their ass and they're trying to test it. Let them test it. Believe in someone else, because you never know what it is. And I shouldn't be asking you for your metrics. I shouldn't be asking you for, well, gee, have you raised funds before? Well, no. I mean, I'm talking to you.
That's why I'm talking to you.
So it's not, it shouldn't be that hard. And if I'm pre-revenue, that means I don't have any money. So how am I going to be revenue? And a lot of these companies are looking for you to be already making 10 and 20,000. Let's be real. If I'm already making 10 and 20,000 a month, I'm not about to talk to you. What do I need an investor for? I can do it myself. So that is kind of where TotalHER came about as well, because I spent my own money. I worked and worked and worked, and I put my own money in it because I wanted the first question an investor to ask me is, how much sweat equity, how much time and energy, and how much money did you put behind this before I believe it? So that is what I thought about. That was the difference in between my first venture and this venture. I went all in. I mean, balls to the wall. I mean, everything. I took the biggest risk of my life, which is probably the dumbest thing that I could have done. But I'm happy that I did it, because I'm hearing feedback from women who are saying, gee, thank you for having an opportunity for us to have somewhere safe to talk about. Yeah, my daughter or my friend or my family member is a victim of sexual assault because they were stalked on Instagram and followed to their home because someone is a super fan and took it to another level. We were just having friendly conversations and it went left, and now they're stalking me. So now I'm hearing things like that is what TotalHER is avoiding. They don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's exactly why I built it. It's so that people can breathe easier.
I love you. I want to go back to a point you were talking about earlier. It sounds like, I mean, a lot of this was even the genesis was just giving women the opportunity to control their own destiny. Hey, look, there's a lot of uncertainty. This is a platform where you can say, hey, you know what? No matter what happens with other things, this is an area where I can come and I can say, I'm going to plant my flag. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to control my own destiny.
Yes. Because I don't think it's someone else should be doing it for you. And that was my reason. That's the mission, is for you to be able to do whatever it is that you do. And no one should discount you or devalue you for that. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to let women know that if nobody else believes in you, I do.
I think it's pretty cool too, just hearing your story of how you were saying, hey, look, like, I'm going to put my all into this thing before I ask anybody else to believe in me. But I think that kind of opens up an interesting conversation. Look, I've never been an investor, so I get it. At the end of the day, as an investor, you're spending your money or potentially someone else's money or a combination of them in a gamble for a return. And that's how you make your living and their living.
Yeah,
but at the same time, what's that?
You buy lottery tickets too.
Yeah. But at the same time, it is interesting how, and again, I'm basing this off of my limited experience, right? But I wonder how much is left of, damn, that person's just got a cool idea. This could be a total strikeout or it could be a home run. But yeah, to Robin's point, like they got no revenue. They got nothing other than a dream and a passion and an idea. And yeah, I mean, there's absolutely, I'm sure, stories of people still doing that out there. But I love that you're kind of thinking that way of saying, I'd love to get to a place where through helping others control their own destiny, me controlling my own destiny, I can then choose to invest in, somebody else's dream. And doing that by literally just seeing, hey, do I believe in you?
Definitely. I mean, everything that we use, everything that we touch, or everything that we look at, it was somebody's dream and somebody had to back them. So you can't be put into a space where you're thinking, oh, it needs to be safe. Nothing is safe. You can come outside and get shot. I mean, nothing is safe. I mean, so no matter what it is or whatever it is, you're going to have to take a risk. And I think people are more in the position where they don't want to take risk anymore. But that is where you miss opportunity. That is where we're missing the next best thing. That is where we're missing where medical science goes. I mean, no one really thought that they would have a cure for anything, but someone thought about it. Someone sat there and obsessed about it. And they put their time and their energy, maybe even their money. They might have risked their bodies, their families, or whatever it was to get to the point where you can now be in a better position. And I think everyone has a duty to invest in something else that is greater than you, something else that is different than you. You can't stay in your lane. Just always be looking for opportunities, be open, because you never know what that next thing is. You never know if that could save your life one day. You never know if that's going to be something that's going to change the world. You just never know. And you can't be thinking, well, what's safe? There's no such thing as safe.
Robin, what made me think about this? But, you were telling me earlier, you were like, lots of little things just tick you off. Can I tell you one of my biggest pet peeves? And I'll tell you why you made me think of this. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm driving down the road and you hear the sirens of an ambulance. And you pull off to the side of the road and try to give them as much room as possible. And then some knucklehead is just putzing along in their own little world. And the ambulance gets stuck behind them and is honking their horn and flashing their lights and everything. And finally the person's like, oh, pulls over to the side of the road finally. I'm like, man, how would you feel if that ambulance had your mom in it?
Yep.
And they were going to the hospital. And it was seconds that were going to matter for her. And you were so oblivious to the world or thought you were so important that you didn't pay attention and you held up that ambulance. And you compound that. 5, 6, 10, 15 people do that along the drive to the hospital for that ambulance. That can have an impact on that person's survival rate. And, you can extrapolate that out to kind of what you were just talking about, right? Of, man, sometimes we don't realize just how much of a potential impact for the positive or the negative that we have on somebody and their trajectory. And just being aware and being thoughtful and paying attention and saying, hey, I'm going to look for the opportunity to be positive, to be supportive, to get out of somebody's way and let them succeed, or to believe in them, that can literally have a difference. And to your point, like, you never know what the outcome of that could be. You could do something that seemed so small and insignificant at one point, and it completely changed somebody's trajectory. And you never know when that comes back around. I mean, I don't have an exact example, but, you hear of these crazy stories of like somebody helping some kid, and then, the kid grows up and becomes an ER doctor and then ends up saving that person's life after a horrific car accident. You're like, those things really happen. Like, those are not just Lifetime movies. Like, that kind of stuff really happens. And so, we get one shot at this life. You get one
Right.
shot to be on this planet, and you can choose to either be a positive force and create opportunities for people and create safe places for people to excel and win and succeed, or you can be a piece of crap and get in their way and push people down. And I don't know, I do know about you, actually. I know about you. I know about me. Like, I want to be the good side of that. I want to be somebody that's helping. And so, I mean, it's kind of fascinating too, that this brings it all the way back to, like, you literally decided, nah, I'm sick of this. This ticked me off. I'm going to go out of my way. I'm going to invest my hard earned savings. I'm going to invest my sweat equity, and I'm going to build something different. And I'm going to try to create a community where people can succeed. That's pretty neat.
That's exactly what I was intending on doing. It was just all about, I waited. So I did do let's see if somebody else comes up with it. I really did. I tried to wait, and I'm just not the most patient person in the world. You can ask my kids. Like, literally, if I ask you to do something, you've got all of 30 seconds to be moving in that direction before I do it myself. So that's kind of just my approach with TotalHER. I was like, okay, all right, social media. Okay, people are saying their priorities are gender equality. Oh, okay, that's great. Oh, they're worried about how women feel. Oh, okay, we got DEI. Then now we don't. So, okay, what are we going to do? Let's solve the problem. So instead of waiting, I just did it. Let's just solve it and then see if it works. And if it doesn't, cool. If it's not. So here's the interesting thing. I know a lot of CEOs and founders might not say this, but I guarantee you, even if TotalHER fails, I promise you I have another idea. Matter of months. I'm going to always reinvent. I'm going to always pivot because I'm the queen of pivot. So if I'm not going in the right direction, I will change directions just like that. So even if I never get an investor, I'm pretty sure I'm going to find a way to keep this opportunity going for women. As long as I can, as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to continue to try to make a way for someone else.
Well, I mean, I want to come back to one of the things you were talking about when you were talking about just the idea that spurned on TotalHER. It was really interesting when you and I first connected, because there was a really direct example in my own life, right? So my wife and I got together later in life. We were both very, kind of career focused up until that point. And finally we were ready to, look for, our best friend in life. And we found that in each other, and we wanted to start a family and do all the things. And my wife, when she finally ended it, had been at Nike corporate for almost 20 years, right? Super cool, like, career. She's done some amazing things. My wife is a total badass, and I love and respect the shit out of her. Okay. And when we had our second child, we talked about, she had the option to continue working and we do that, or if she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And she really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. But she also wanted to do other things, and she wanted to satisfy, her career brain and her creativity and some of the things that she was just passionate about doing. And I think a lot like you, like, one of the things that my wife really loves to do is just build a sense of community around her friends, to share with them, to provide for people. And, it started as just a fun little side hobby years ago. And when she went stay-at-home mom, it kind of ratcheted up. And she's one of those at-home sourdough bread bakers. And people absolutely love getting these gifts of, the hard-worked, real old-school, traditional, homemade sourdough bread. And it has morphed into her saying, I kind of want to turn this into a side business. Okay. And so when I was talking to you, and then I even brought it up to my wife, and she was like, yeah, even as somebody who, had climbed the ranks at corporate Nike, has traveled to, different countries and negotiated with huge factories and, brought on retailers and designed products and all of these things. Robin, she was still crazy intimidated to think about starting her own little side business. She didn't know where to start. She didn't feel like she had great support other than from me, but from a community of people and a playbook for her to follow. And for somebody that was kind of in her corner in terms of thinking about what are the financial elements behind starting a business, right? And so what was interesting was, as soon as I met you, I was telling my wife all about your platform. And she was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Like, that is exactly what I was kind of thinking that I would want, is just this place where I could go and talk to, other women who've gone through my journey. They were, in corporate America and then decided to go stay at home mom. And now their priorities have changed and their days changed. But they're still looking for other things to do. And maybe they want to start a business. And she's like, I would love to talk to another mom who was like, yeah, I did this and then I went stay at home mom and now I'm, selling body butters or whatever it is. And so I think she immediately just loved the idea of being able to have that very niche sense of community. And I think, why that was really kind of an intriguing data point for me was because I was able to really talk to her about, well, why? And I'll be totally honest with you, Robin. I mean, I was just more for a research perspective. I really picked her brain on. I was like, well, why do you feel like you couldn't do that on Instagram? Why do you feel like just opening a Shopify site or even using Etsy or, one of these platforms that already exist? Why don't you feel like that would be a great route? And her answers were a lot of what you were talking about. She was like, man, it's just negative. She's like, there's just so much crap. And it's like you post something on it and somebody immediately wants to tear it down. Why? Just for fun. Just because they're bored. Just because they're a jerk. Just because they can hide behind their keyboard. And she was like, and two, she's like, as much as there are communities of people that are small business owners, as much as there are communities of sourdough bread bakers, she was like, I kind of wanted that very specific niche of women that I felt like I could talk to on a level playing field. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think you literally just said like Robin's business plan. So I would love to get your take on, what have you found as people have kind of discovered and come to your platform, and people like my wife kind of coming in and saying, hey, like this is where I'm at and I want to be met where I'm at with other people like me. Like, what are some of the things that you found just as you've launched this?
A lot of times I would say I was overthinking. I overanalyze a lot of things. Like, for an example, there is a conversation that was had with my development team and myself about a feature that's similar to Instagram where you can add the music and different things of that to your content. I was like, why does that even matter? Like, one, what does it really matter if we add music? And then so we started researching. First of all, it cost a lot of money to get the licenses to use music and all of those things in there. And I realized women don't need that. They don't need that to be successful. So why are we going to put something on the platform that is not going to receive an ROI or some type of value to you? It needs to either feed you in your wallet, feed you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, or something like that. And I don't believe that particular feature is going to allow that to happen. So I made sure that every decision that I made with the app was going to do one of those things. It needed to feed you in some capacity, or it needs to build you in some type of way, mold you, and different things of that nature. So that is why I was very careful through the design and careful through the product, making it work. I wanted women to get what they needed to be successful. No one needs all this extra stuff. Like, have you ever read a self-help book and realized that it's 200 pages and only 50 pages were worth anything? That is literally how a lot of things that we have. We have so much fluff and extra and more than we really need or want, when at the end of the day, somebody just wants to know how to get out of bed every day. They don't need to read 200 pages on how you walk through a wilderness or whatever it was. I've read strange mental health books where they were finding themselves on cliffs and mountains and stuff. Look at me. I don't belong on a mountain, so I'm never going to find it. So that's not going to help me in any capacity. I mean, that's great for you, but that is not what I'm experiencing. I'm a mom. I've got two teenagers. Both of them are driving me crazy. I'm going through an immigration process that's 5 years in the making. I'm doing all of those things. I need to talk to somebody who is there where I am. And I don't need to talk to 80 different people that are going to give me, oh, gee, well, you should read the Bible more. You should pray a little bit more. Maybe you should write your congressman. That's not helpful information. I just want to go off on somebody and just say, this is BS. And why do I have to do that? And that's why I wanted an environment where someone can literally say what they needed to say. There's a post that as women join the platform, they'll see this one post where I am talking about a vaginal vitamin. Nowhere in LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook world will you ever see someone talking about a vaginal vitamin. They would be fed to the wolves. They would be hung out to dry as if they have killed someone on national TV. That is what would have happened. But on my platform, people are applauding. They're liking it because I'm real. I'm raw. I'm like, okay, this product works. I'm over 40 and I need help. So, and that's what I wanted to have is a place that I can have conversations like that. Gee, I'm not, I'm not good today. I'm not feeling my best today. I'm not feeling 100%. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel this and that. I wanted women to have a place where they can say that stuff and no one is going to make them feel a different type of way or feel bad about it. And that's what it's all about. So everything that I created literally was to complement and to make sure they have exactly what they needed to get to the next day, get to the next. Some people are trying to make it to the next 5 minutes. If that's the case, that's what I'm trying to help them do.
Yeah. That brings up something you mentioned earlier that I thought was really worth touching on again too, which is, this concept of we evolve, hopefully, as people, right? And the things that we thought and believed and talked about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, may be different. But what's interesting about, this, generation of those of us that grew up with the internet is, or at least, at some point in our lives, is this stuff lives forever. And, you really got me thinking when you were talking about it. And man, I couldn't agree more, Robin. It's interesting as the host of this podcast, we've been running this podcast for years now. We're almost 150 guests deep. These are all hour-plus long conversations. I've said a lot of stuff over the years now. I guarantee you anything. If I go back and listen to episodes 1, 2, 3, there's probably some things that I've changed my mind on. I regret saying, I don't feel the same about. And that is an interesting thing that I think has kind of transpired out of this in a negative sense. Is you are, I kind of appreciate the way you said it. You're like, you're judged to your worst self. And I'm like, man, that sucks. Because I'll be the first one to tell you, go back to my early 20s. I was not a great person. I was nowhere near who I am today. I guarantee you, not just one or two things that I said back then would I regret. It's probably a large percentage of it. Mm-hmm. I don't even have to go that far back where I can probably find some things where I'm like, man, I really wish that people wouldn't judge me based on that action or that, thing that I said. I'd love to be judged for who I am today. And even then I'd love to be judged for who I am today with some grace. Because we're human and I'm not perfect. I'm trying really hard to be a good human, to raise my children to be good humans, to be a good husband, to be a good father, to be a good colleague, to be, a good podcast host, whatever it is. But I ain't perfect. And I think that's one of the hardest things about how a lot of has come out of social media for me was just, it is like we judge people for the worst thing that we can possibly judge them. No, I'm not saying that everybody does and that's, all there is, but man, there's just too much of it.
Right.
There's too much of it. And I appreciate you kind of addressing that, we want to be able to evolve. We want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Like that thing Robin said 5 years ago, I don't like it. I didn't agree with it. But I talked to Robin today and man, Robin's just a really good person. And I really love talking to Robin. Look, we are human and there's billions of us on the planet. To think
Right.
that we are all going to agree about every single thing perfectly is crazy. It ain't
Definitely.
going to happen,
It's
right?
not. But another component of that is
Mm.
being accountable. We don't
Yeah,
see people
it's
be
good.
accountable. So yes, if I said something 5, 10 years ago and it offended someone or made them feel some type of way, and we're talking in present day, you could say, gee, 5 years ago you said blah, 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 blah. You know what the first thing I'm gonna say is? You're absolutely right. 9 out of 10 times I said what I said. And in that moment when I said it, that's probably how I truly felt. Because a lot of times, like going back to what I was saying or what you said in my introduction, I'm strategic about everything, including what I say. So if I said it, that's exactly what I meant. So there was no so if I said it, I'm just going to own up to the fact that I said it, and one or two things are going to happen. I'm either going to apologize for what I said because I
Hmm.
no longer think that way, or I'm going to stand firm in it. I believe in standing 10 toes down, and if it's what I think and it's still what I feel, that's what it's going to be. Just like when 10 years from now, when people ask me, will I regret creating TotalHER? Even if it's an absolute flop and we never take off or anything, my answer is going to be the same thing what it is now. No, I don't regret it. Not a single moment. And everything I said is literally what I mean. So
Yeah.
10 years from now, it's going to be the same thing. And if I do say something out of error or out of context or offensive to someone, I'm going to own up to it. I'm going to take accountability. And either A, I'm going to still feel that way, or B, I'm just going to have to take it in stride
Yeah.
and take that as a lesson learned. Everything that I do now is a lesson that I learned years ago.
Yeah.
And that's how I make my moves. It's based on what I've learned, what I've observed, mistakes that I've seen other people take. And I try not to walk down the same path. And that's what I'm going to continue to do until my last day.
Yeah, that is a really important point. I'm glad you brought it. I mean, accountability to it, right? Hey, look, I said it. I'm sorry. And yeah, maybe I still, agree with that, and we're going to have to agree to disagree, or maybe I've changed my, perspective on. I think that's one of the reasons why too it's so incredibly important for us to have the ability to talk within our, people like me groups, right? Because that helps. But it's also really, really important for us to talk to people that aren't like us. It's really, really important to hear diversity of thought. It's probably one of the favorite things that I get out of hosting this podcast. Is I get to talk to so many unique people, Robin, with so many different walks of life, so many different experiences. And it's not every day, but absolutely there are times where I've changed my mind. And that's awesome. I love to have my mind changed. Like, if you can argue against me so strongly that you can change my opinion on it, like, that's cool. That's cool that one, you were able to open my eyes or educate me or give me a different perspective. Two, that's really cool that I was big enough to be able to take that leap and make a change, right? That's how we grow. So it's important to be able to have exactly what you're creating, right? Like a safe place where I can talk to people that are shared experiences and things like that. But I would think you would agree, it's also why it's important for us to talk outside of those places. We kind of need all of that to create good, well-rounded humans.
Exactly. So a lot of questions that I've been getting as I'm pitching my company and different things of that nature. I'm talking to banks and different, even though that conversation, it's 5 minutes or less. So I'm talking to people and the first thing they say is, what have you learned?
Hmm.
And I learned that I have to make a move. So whether it's for the good or for the bad, I have to keep moving. I cannot stay the same. So when it comes to, and no one can make me change. So even though your argument may be strong or different things of that nature, I'm not going to change until I'm ready to change. Just like you can't make someone do something because you want them to do it, just, how we are with our children. We want our children to do certain things. And but it comes down at the end of the day, they're not going to do it unless they want to do it, unless they see the value in doing it. And you have to be okay with that. You just have to, or you're just not going to be successful in whatever it is that you're trying to convince them to do. And if they're not understanding what they're needing to do or whatnot, be the example. Because a lot of times people just need to see somebody else do it. Someone might need to see you fail and fail a lot. And
Yeah.
that's what happens
Yeah.
is people learn just by observing. People learn just by just you telling your story. People learn based on just whatever it is that they're going through at the time.
Yeah.
And that's how it is.
That is my daughter, Annie. She's 2. And that is our experience in potty training, Annie. She's very different than my son. And my wife and I joke, we were just talking about this the other night, Robin. I said, Annie is going to be one of those girls. I am so proud of this little girl at 2 years old. Like, she is going to be a strong, badass, independent woman. I could see it already. And it is awesome to know I'm raising that, but it's challenging at times. And potty training is that. But my wife and I were talking about this literally the other night, Robin. We were like, Annie is going to grow up and she's going to be like 38, still living on her couch. She's going to be on like business idea number 37 that is all erupted in flames. And then number 39 is going to make her a billionaire. Like,
Yep.
she's just going to be that girl. And I'm like, and I love watching that in her. But yeah, you're like, Annie, you need to go potty. She's like, I'm going to go potty when I want to go potty. I'm like,
Yep.
all right. that's the path we're taking with you. But
And you got to be okay with it.
you got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to come back to something else you said that really piqued my interest. When you were talking about the whole, like, do we add songs feature? You said something that I thought was really interesting. And it's something we talk about a lot. And here we can bring a direct call back to the actual name of the podcast, the Digital Banking Podcast. We talk about it a lot in digital banking. There are so many bloody features and functions in digital banking today, right? How many of them truly add meaningful value? And I mean, our data suggests it's a steep cliff. There's a handful of things that people use all the time and that add a ton of value, and then it just nosedives. And it's very specific. This one person used this one thing, they used it this one time, right? There's a lot of that. And I think there's a lot of feature chasing in technology today. There's a lot of, well, somebody else has this, so we have to have it. Oh, well, one person asked for this, so we have to have it. And, I appreciate you being pretty unapologetic about, like, does this thing really add value? Is this really going to make an impact for somebody? And at what point do we stop chasing check mark the boxes and the status quo stuff and say, hey, you know what? Yes, if I were to just compare against my competitors, I need to have that to check mark the box to have feature parity with them. But I found that just doesn't matter. Or it does, but it's so minuscule that if I focus my effort on this thing, it actually differentiates. It actually adds unique value. And so therefore, I may actually not check mark a box that everybody is sitting there going, I can't believe you don't check mark that box. Everybody check marks that box. You're like, yeah, I don't, and I'm cool with it. Because I check mark this other box, nobody else does, and it actually adds real value. So how do you think about that?
Well, the first thing is I'm going to stay in tune to the women. So someone can send me an email today and they can say, gee, Robin, I think you should have that music feature. I just gotta have it because it just makes it, it's going to make my content exciting. It's going to make me feel a certain type of way when I do it. I want to edit and hear the music. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to have my developers create that feature because this platform is about building what people want, not necessarily what I want. This platform, the mission is about empowering women, giving women what they need to make it through or to survive or whatever that end is for them. It's about them. So I want to listen to women and what it is that they need, and I'm going to provide them what they need. I'm not going to provide them what I want or what I've decided in some focus group that probably doesn't involve women and have decided on their behalf this is what they need or anything. So even right down to the concept, before I built anything pertaining to TotalHER, I asked a lot of women first. What do you think? What if you had an environment like this? Would you join? And that's how I started winning people before I even did one stitch of code.
Was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything that came out of that you're like, wow, that's what other women want?
Yeah. What surprised me was the fact that I was telling women, I don't want the men to jump down on me. I don't want them to be upset with me because they can't join this platform. So I am going to, at a later point, build a male version of this platform. Do you know the women that read me for filth because I said that? They were like, no, you can't build a male version of this. This is about women empowerment. Men have everything. Let this be just one thing that we have, just one thing. And I was just shocked because I thought they would be okay with it. Like, gee, okay, let's separate the boys and the girls. I thought people would literally be okay with it. They were livid, rivid. Still to this day, women are sending me messages. You're not building the male version, are you? I was like, no, but I did the domain. I have an idea how I want it to look or whatever. But no, I have not started actively developing it. In fact, I'm actively developing another product right now that it's very secret right now because I'm still weeding through it. But trust me, it has nothing to do with the male version of the app. But it's in a mission to, once again, something else that pissed me off, and I'm coming up with a solution for it. So just listening to people, I get my energy, my best ideas from listening to people, watching people, television. I get ideas everywhere. I can be standing in a line about to get my nails done, and I'll listen to the conversations that are being had in the nail salon, and that'll give me my next idea. And that's just how it is. I'm just open to it.
I've had lots of founders on the podcast over the years, and that's absolutely a trait that, we see a lot of people that just are willing to jump right in. And I tell you what, Robin, I have just so much respect for you because I just can't do it. I like come up with the great idea and then that's the end of it. And man, I've just never had the guts to take the next step. I have so much respect for you for just guns blazing, barreling in, being fearless. I mean, the fact that you can openly say, like, I don't know if this thing is a total flop and a failure and I lose all my money. You know what? I gave it my best shot. And I tried to do something that actually added value and brought, an impact to my community. And you're like, you're okay with that. I mean, that's just so gutsy. I love it. I respect it so much.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It could fail. I could absolutely, is it going to hurt? Is it going to be detrimental? Is it going to change the dynamics of my family and different things of that nature? Because, I have other people that put their hard-earned money into it as well to help me with this dream. Because my mom, if you think I'm amazing, my mom is amazing.
Aww.
Like, she's just like me. Everything that I do, I learned from her. And she was like, well, if this fails, we'll figure out something else. It'll be okay. And that's just how I approach everything. I'm going to do my 110%. I'm going to put everything I can in it. I'm going to throw my weight in it. And if it fails, it just fails. And I'm okay with it. Because 9 out of 10 times, because I'm so strategic in my thinking, I already have something else.
I mean, you kind of have to have that mindset, right? Because otherwise you're just going to be kind of paralyzed by fear.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned this earlier, and this kind of stays on the vein of, talking about just technology deployment as a whole. And I think is a really good direct draw to our industry and what we're doing. And you were talking about the trade-off of convenience and security. And it's really real examples of what that looks like. And I think there's, varying levels of like everything from just, do I have to use an OTP to log into my email versus, we were even talking about that Uber and Lyft now offer the ability for you to say, I want to schedule a female driver. And I had a very recent interaction with a friend who travels a lot for work, and she prefers to use Uber and Lyft rather than rent a car because it's just more convenient. But she was telling me, she's like, I absolutely always schedule using that feature and it takes longer. And I'm okay with that. And I just budget it into my time because the trade-off of that convenience for my safety, my security, my soundness, my peace of mind, she's like, it's 100% worth it. So that's what I do. And you were talking about how even like in your app to enroll in the platform, you launched a feature to make people actually do the full, selfie face ID with movement and liveness checks and all of that, because you want to verify that they're real people. And some of the women reached out to you and were like, this is annoying. This is an inconvenience. But you're like, hey, but this is how I protect the safety and sanctity of what we've built.
Yeah. So a lot of times you just have to do what is necessary. I don't want to pay ADT $200 and something a month for security for my home or whatnot, but you'll never catch me without it, because at the end of the day, I can sleep at night and know someone's got my back and they're going to watch my home when I'm not there, or if I'm there and I'm asleep or whatnot. I will spend a lot of money, whatever I have to, in order to remain safe, because there's so much unsafeness about it going on in the world.
Yeah.
Particularly when we talk about social media. Before I do anything, any post on any platform, I'm turning off that little geo tracking thing. Unless I want you to know where I am, you're not about to know where I am, because you're not about to pull up on me on a surprise attack or ambush or whatever. So if that means I have to take a little bit longer just to post content, or if that means that I don't post a lot of content, or what they call overload of influence world, I'm okay with that, because safety is everything to me.
Yeah.
Everything. And everything that I do, it needs to be something that I can feel secure about at the end of the day, because that's what it's about. I need to be able to sleep at night. So even going down to building this platform, even coming up with the pricing that we have for our memberships and different things, it all comes to, can they be safe? What can I charge where they can still be safe on this platform, still get what they need, but I'm not price gouging and taking advantage of someone, being greedy, because I want to be able to sleep at night. I want to be, if you see me in the streets, you're like, oh, Robert, you charged me $900. I don't want to be that person. So I want to be able to sleep comfortably at night, and I want to be at peace, because I guess according to social media, it's called soft girl era. I'm definitely in that soft girl era. I want peace if I don't have anything else.
Okay, explain. That's the first I've heard that term. Can you explain that to me?
So I found out on social media that women go through different phases of their life. You have hustle mode. You have where you're trying to climb that corporate ladder or whatever it is. Then you have this phase where you just got to build a family, have children, check all the boxes, get the American dream, whatever that really is. Those things like that. There's different eras.
Okay.
And there's one that I believe Gen Z created, which is just low stress, low maintenance, and just doing barely or whatever, doing whatever it is that you need to do to feel okay.
Yeah.
So it prioritizes self-care. So if you need to take out of your budget $100 to go get your nails done or to get a massage done, no one should make you feel guilty about that. Just do it. That's the soft girl era. It's all about prioritizing and being okay with being okay, or not okay if that's how it is.
Yeah.
So it's just being soft life. It's not being driven or controlled by, I guess if we're in the Matrix, one of those pills. So it's about just being you.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because that goes back to what you were talking about earlier of also what you try to create within your platform, right? Which is the opportunity for women to be, posting content and things without thinking like, oh, I have to do this to get, likes, and I have to get this to get viral status. I want to get your take on this. I actually made a comment my wife and kids joined me. I was at a conference in Maui. I know, feel real upset for me. It was hard work. Somebody had to do it. And they came with, and we extended and did a little family vacation down there. And I don't even know how the conversation came up, but I was telling my wife how it was really kind of annoying me. And maybe I need to do a LinkedIn post on this and see what other people think too. But I was telling my wife it was starting to really annoy me that LinkedIn was starting to feel very social media-y. And what's interesting about me being the one calling that out is I'd like to think I'm pretty raw and genuine with how I do my LinkedIn. It's actually very deeply personal. Like there's lots of posts about my kids and my family on that. There's just as much a part of what I do and why I do it the way I do as anything else, right? And so, I mean, heck, there was even a picture on LinkedIn of us on the plane flying to that conference as a family, right? So I'm all about that personal content and stuff. But what was really annoying was as I was scrolling through my feed and I was literally showing my wife and I was like, was it always like this? Am I just hypersensitive to it? Because it's really pissing me off. But Robin, there was like tons of posts of like guys without their shirts on in like, peak specimen shape. And it was like, are you a busy executive that is, not happy with your self-image? Like I provide personal coaching services. And then I scrolled down and there's, a woman talking about how to interview for a job. And you're like, oh, this would be great content on LinkedIn. And she's definitely dressed incredibly provocatively on purpose. And it's a featured top reel. Shocking. And I'm like, this shit just pisses me off. Pardon my French, but like, it was just really annoying. I was like, that is not what I want out of my LinkedIn feed. Like, I want kind of what you're talking about, right? But in a more general sense. I want a place where people can collaborate and build and network. And it's not this just like, I'm going to post the picture that I know is going to get 1 billion likes just because it's going to get 1 billion likes. Hey, if it gets 1 billion likes, but it was genuine content, great, love it, all for it, right? But like, if you're really like, I've got to maximize every angle and how can I make this more aggressive than it needs to be just so it gets high. I'm like, dude, that's just exhausting. And so I like that you talked about that. You're like, I want to kill that off.
I wanted to take that away because first of all, we have to keep platforms for what they were meant to be and what the purpose of it was. For instance, LinkedIn, it was for professional networking. So it should be all about building business and different things of that nature. That's what that was intended for. It was not intended for you to be aggressive and all of these things, yelling at people, telling them that they're stupid, making a mistake. The reason you're not making money in contracting is because you're doing this. That's not what people join a professional platform to do. Or I'll get messages where I'll post a picture of myself and I've got 3 men trying to propose to me. Why? We're on LinkedIn. We should be conversating about what you viewed on my page regarding my business and different things of that nature. Take that to Instagram. Go into the DMs and stalk people that way. That's what that's for. And, so it's just, we've got to start blurring the lines and taking things for what they weren't meant to do, because it devalues a company at the end of the day. Because what's going to happen is LinkedIn is going to look a whole lot like Instagram and a whole lot like Facebook and a whole lot like Bumble and all of these other things. And what is going to happen is people are going to leave because that's not what they signed up for. They signed up to network, and that's what they wanted to do. If they wanted to find a date, find a husband, and all of that stuff, they would have went to the other platforms. There's 100 dating apps. There's 100 learn a language app. There's 100, all of these, there's other spaces. There's a time and a place for that. And I think that's what is being confused when we talk about social media, like Twitter. That was meant for you to say 150 characters, 140 characters, or whatever it was, little nuggets of information. Now it's becoming paragraphs and we're over here stating our political what we're thinking and all that stuff. That's not what Twitter was built for. It just wasn't built for that. And we just, if you want a platform where you do that, build it. Build where you want to be, build whatever it is that you want to do. But let's stop taking things that were meant for one purpose and do another thing with it.
Yeah.
Because, that's not what it's about at the end of the day. And I think that's how we start getting into the point where we can no longer separate work from life, because it all blurs together. You have to learn how to separate the two. You have to learn how to input boundaries. You have to learn how to say, hey, this is not okay with me. And and you have to stick with it. And I think that's where a lot of people are feeling pressure and stress and different things of that nature, is because you can't separate it. Even on LinkedIn, if you're talking about your company, you're worried about someone in human resources finding out what you said. Now, that's not a safe place to say things now, right? Because you don't know if it's going to get back to your employer. And then they've got the cancel culture where you can say something and now you're being terminated from your job. So we're making social media the enemy, when it was only meant to be an online community because you couldn't be around these people physically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what it was intended for. And I think we've gotten away from that. And that's why I wanted to bring some of that back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. No, I agree. I think, one of the things I really struggle with social media too is I think a lot of times take some of the stuff that has gotten people canceled and things like that as an example. I think a lot of times, Robin, those people wouldn't have said the things that they said if it wasn't that you have to always be edgy and you're trying to push the boundaries, because that's what social media is. They wouldn't have said it if it wasn't so accessible to just grab my phone and blurt it out in the heat of the moment. They wouldn't have said it if somebody was standing right in front of them, looking at them in the eyes, right? What was it? I always make the joke that the great philosopher Mike Tyson once said, a lot of people say some stupid stuff because they forget what it's like to get punched in the teeth. Mm-hmm. And it's you probably wouldn't have said that if someone was standing there and was going to sock you in the face if you'd said it, And so many times it's man, if you take that person, you're hey, just slow down, think, now respond. They probably wouldn't have said it or said it the way that they did, but man, it's just so accessible. We get so fired up, and it just creates a place of negativity, and we see that, right? And we see it reduce people to their lowest selves, and that's kind of a shame.
Exactly. And that's what I do. I have a habit of, with text messages, emails, ping, I leave it in draft. Walk away, do something else, or start talking to someone else, or do another activity, come back and reread it before I send it.
Yeah.
Because 9 out of 10 times, 5 minutes from now, that's not how I'm feeling. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I would have to end up either explaining myself or apologizing. So to eliminate all of that, let me just leave it in draft, especially in email. If I'm upset in an email, even with my developers and so forth, I could be angry and just want to say what I got to say. I guarantee you I'm not going to send that email until the next morning. And 9 out of 10 times, either A, I haven't said what I said, or I've added more details to it so I can get my point across. So it's one of the two things. Let's give ourselves the grace to take our time. I think everything is so rush that we're not able to fully think something out. Before, when people ask you a question, it's okay to take a moment to just, let me think about that. And then pause and think about your answer, unless you just are the type of person that just rambles off good stuff at the top of your head, then that's cool. But we have to be okay with just taking a moment. It is okay to think it through before you do it. And we have to give ourselves the grace to do that.
I mean, that's awesome advice. Totally agree. I want to bring this back and I want to kind of close with bringing all of this together. I talked about kind of in the opening of the episode that I think that there was a very real example here and a very real opportunity for, the majority of kind of the listener base of this podcast. And that's that, I talked to tons of community financial institutions throughout the year and everybody they're looking for an opportunity to differentiate, to build community, to add value, to serve, right? And I think, we talked about a very real example of an area that could really use some support. And it's a lot of these women that are going out on their own, trying to control their own destiny and start businesses. And they need a bank somewhere.
Yeah.
And man, do they need somebody that's in their corner, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a huge opportunity for our credit unions and community banks that are really trying to focus a lot on small business, SMB space, building out commercial services for new businesses. This is a huge opportunity, right? Build
Women are
some
some
resources.
of the best inventors. Women are some of the best inventors. They just don't have an opportunity.
Yeah. Create
They
an
just don't.
opportunity. Support people. I think this is a no-brainer for if you're looking for a niche segment to service, create some resources. Bring some awesome women entrepreneurs onto staff that can do mentorship in, your commercial lending space. How awesome would that be if my wife was sitting there going, I really want to start this sourdough bread baking business. I don't know where to start. And her credit union was like, hey, we have a resource. We've got a woman who has been an entrepreneur. She started a couple of businesses. She helps women like you get your business started. Think about how to manage your finances, how to get funding, how to control your operating expenses, how to balance your books, how to do all of this stuff.
Real answers, though, because
Cool.
there's resources out there that they have that are, oh, this is about women, but it doesn't really give you real answers.
Yeah.
It's fluff. I've got to go through 100 different websites or 100 different pages just to get one answer. Let's talk in plain English, like especially when you're talking about finances. Let's talk in plain English where regular people talk to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to explain to me how I can get this done. And I don't think we have those resources. We're not there yet because right now everyone wants to go around in circles and not give you a legit answer.
Well, and this actually brings up a great point. We've talked about this example on the podcast a bunch. One of the other things that really ticks me off, Robin, is how much bad information there is out there on things like TikTok and Instagram. There is a mountain of like financial help information out there. And I watch a bunch of this stuff for market research purposes. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people that are dead in the face giving people financial advice, and it is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, that's not even just wrong. That is illegal. You cannot do this. And they're straight faced telling people because they think they're an expert, and it's garbage advice, right? And so, my argument has always been in financial services, who is the trusted resource? Man, it is credit unions and community banks. These are the people that really, really care. These are the people that, I talk to community bankers and credit union people, Robin, all the time. I'm like, how long have you been at the credit union? They're like, oh, I'm the young pup. I've only been here 25 years. That is an incredible resource. Let's open up those resources to people because that's somebody you can trust. That's somebody who's in your corner, right? So to your point, like if they build out a practice to help service somebody, that is not just this woman going to TikTok and seeing this advice on how to start her sourdough bread business and being like, I don't know if I can trust this or not. Is this legit? But man, if she sits down with somebody at the credit union or the local bank, totally different story.
Also, another thing, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to listen to anybody that hasn't been where I have. For example, weight medication and different things like that. If you've never been fat a day in your life, you're not about to tell me how to get skinny. I need to talk to someone who's been where I've been. If you've started a business, I want to know that you were actually pre-revenue. You were, just the business plan, good idea, and you started with $0. That's who I want to get financial advice from, not someone who grew up born into a family with a bank already
Yeah.
or money or in different things, because you're not about to educate me on how to get to where you are because you've never been where I am. So when people go onto the internet and different things of that nature, and you listen to this information and different things of this nature, always vet it. Look at the information and see, gee, has this person ever really been where I am? Because 9 out of 10 times, if they're telling their story now, they've been telling their story. So go and look at some of their old stuff. Were they struggling then? Were they trying to figure out the next move? Did they get advice from somebody? And if they did get advice, who was it? Because I need to talk to that person too. That's what we should be doing versus watching a TikTok video and now everybody wants to do heart surgery. That's not how that works.
100%. Robin, you are just a blast. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. And I think there's some really cool lessons and opportunities that came out of this podcast. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come and be a guest. Thank you for telling your story. And thank you for being really, really open and transparent and honest about it, and talking about, the challenges that you faced, your failures, your successes, and kind of how you're applying that. I think to exactly what you were just saying, I really think that you're going to be a light for a lot of other people who look and say, I just need to talk to somebody who's been where I've been, that's been through what I've been through and has figured out how to go to the other side or to get to where I want to get to, and be a resource for that. And Robin, I'm going to tell you this as somebody who's just recently met you this. Look, let's say TotalHER ends up being a total failure and you shut it down. I don't think you're ever going to look back and say it was a total failure, because I guarantee you've helped at least one person or 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people. And even if it's just one, the impact that you've probably had on that one person, you may never get to know it, but you've done a good thing. And I think you should be really, really proud of that. And I think it's really cool that you just went full gusto into building community and trying to help people and just keeping it positive. It's some really cool stuff, Robin. I think you should be really proud of what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming and being a guest, and just thanks for sharing with me. But before I let you go, I do have 2 final questions for you.
Okay.
So where do you go for information? So, what kinds of things do you pay attention to? Where are you getting your news and information resources?
So it's called a step of 3. So I go to the internet, I do my general searches. I check AI, I check Google, I check different sources. I'm looking for information. But 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to go and find a research source. Then I'm telling you that I love to find people who've been where I've been, and I will send them a message. And I'll just flat out, no fluff, no puff, straight ask them a question. And if they confirm what I've already read, the next thing that I'm going to do before I make an action, I'm probably going to pray about it. I'm very spiritual. I may not be religious or whatever. I don't pick one religion over another, but I am very spiritual, and I do believe in making decisions by a different power. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect on it. I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to pray about it and see if that's what I should be doing before I do it. And that's my check of 3. If all 3 check out, that's what I'm doing.
I love it. Well, last but not least, if people want to connect with you, if they want to talk to you, if they want to learn about you, or if they want to check out what you're doing in business, how can they do that?
I would say my most active social media is probably LinkedIn. You may see me on Instagram. 9 out of 10 times, I'm commenting on posts or different things of that nature, but you won't really see me posting a lot of things. It may be a Bible scripture or something, or it will be a picture of me hanging out with a friend, or just got my makeup done or hair done or something like that. But it'll never be a lot of information. So, but I'll still respond. If you send me a message, I will respond. So if you want to talk to me all the time, I'm on LinkedIn. Or like I said, you can find me on Instagram. you will never hardly see me on Facebook. To be honest, on Facebook, I stopped Facebook 5 years ago. I just recently started looking at Facebook a little bit more, and then I have my team that posts these things on my Facebook page, but that is not me. So if you're sending me a message on Facebook, that is not me responding to you. Let me just be honest. It's not me, because I don't like Facebook. So, and Twitter, I don't even know the password. So I'm not on that.
Well, and then I would assume that people can also find you on TotalHER.
Yes, you can definitely talk. You can talk to her. I respond. Typically, the plan is everyone that joins TotalHER, I'm going to try to follow everybody. So that's the
you're going to get real busy, ma'am.
Yeah. So it's kind of, well, it reminds me of MySpace, where you had Matt as your friend. He was like your one friend when you signed up. So I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to be your one friend. If nobody else follows you, I'm going to try to follow you.
I love that. Taking it all the way back. Making us all feel old. Robin, thank you so much. I mean, this is just a really awesome way to spend my Friday. So I know it's not quite time yet, but I'll turn you loose so you can wrap up your day and get to some trash TV.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and being a guest here on the Digital Banking Podcast.
Definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Banking Podcast, powered by Tyfone. Find more episodes on digitalbankingpodcast.com or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.